surgery option that we have utilizing the robotic technology. And many of these complex operations, which otherwise will be difficult, can be done utilizing the robotic assistance. And the procedure is done literally through tiny fingertip size incisions. And the various technology attributes of high definition, human wrist-like motion, tremor filtration, all translate into very precise conduct of these things, translating into further less trauma, blood loss, and complication. And hospital stay is reduced, as well as people get back to their functional status much sooner. Where we are today and what's the need? Very uneven global penetration, including within the United States, of the robotic surgery technologies. It's very country and economy centric. The US, Europe, and Japan account for almost 90%. And that means a very large population of our planet does not get the benefit of this thing. Indian population of 1.4 billion, we have only 1% penetration. And the biggest reason for this, one was the cost, and secondly, very steep learning curve. And when we look at globally as to the need for these technologies, so it is projected that the surgeries will continue to increase from the current last one to 363 to 489 million. And when you look at the robotic surgery, currently again 1.6 million approximately, they will keep going up. And so I came to India from US and operated first time back in 2002. And so over 20 years, we actually have only around 140 robotic systems in the country with 70,000 hospitals today. And we have over 22,000 large multi-specialty hospitals and pretty large, and they have the largest number of medical colleges in the world. And most of the cases remain non-cardiac. And these volumes are pretty small considering the global volume. And the cost remains pretty high, 11 to 20 crores, depending on what model. And of course, the procedure as well as the maintenance contracts are quite expensive. So a lot of these reasons really have translated into not just India, but globally, a very poor and uneven penetration. So with that, recognizing the need for an affordable system, we created this SS Innovations. With my personal background as a robotic cardiac surgeon, having done over 1,400 some cases, wanted to really develop a system that will be cost effective and hopefully leapfrog some of these existing technologies. And so let's go into the technology. It's a very different robotic system compared to the monopoly of the Da Vinci system that has existed for 20 plus years now. At every level, it is different. And so if someone is familiar with the Da Vinci system, it is has got a single mounting beam and all the four arms are mounted on that. There is no 3D vision for the table side. Ergonomically, the surgeon is sitting hunched over. And essentially, cardiac procedures these days, especially the bypass surgery, cannot be done with the system because company has decided not to do it. And so our surgeon command center is open-faced. So one surgeon can sit ergonomically, much larger monitor, 32-inch monitor, and very large 2D monitor, which really allows one to pull up the large images actually. And also we have developed certain holographic technology that will superimpose on the 2D monitor to really aid the surgeon, not only in terms of the anatomy, it will translate into safety and faster procedure. Our command center also is right from the beginning prepared for up to 5 arms. Very ergonomic, again, hand controls, they come in front of you. And this open face allows you to really see every single thing. Not only you can turn your head and see the room, but also what is in front of you as far as the command center is concerned. The arms are modular and they are mounted separately on each card. And this allows for flexibility of 3, 4, or 5 arms. And one can place them wherever required based on the procedure. And this really helps with avoidance of collision during the operations. Our vision card, again, right from the beginning, we prepared to give the same view as the surgeon. No other actually technology has that today. And it is also prepared for tele-mentoring, utilizing the high-speed connectivity or upcoming 5G. We are using a single endoscope and get rid of 2 endoscopes. We are partnered with Olympus, which gives us an articulating tip. And our software is quite sophisticated, whereby we can literally show the team in the operating room guidance so that we take the guesswork out based on the procedure one has to do. So you just have to punch the menu and it all pops up. 30 different types of instruments for various specialties. And since cardiac surgery has been kind of forgotten by others, and with my experience, we really are trying to zoom in, because in cardiac, splitting of the sternum remains the most common approach, whereby long recoveries, complications, etc. So we have developed certain very specific cardiac instrumentation to revive the field. And this is our crown jewel. This is an automated connector, which literally in 6 seconds join the two arteries with a push-up button. There's an open application as well as a robotic application. And currently, no one in the world has this technology. And so is this multi-fire clip applier. We are really very focused on metaverse and augmented mixed reality. And not only we will use this thing, but I think this whole direction is going to change as to how we apply this metaverse in so many different ways in terms of the virtual surgeries, guidance, and also to be able to literally at some point holographically project the surgeon into the room. Currently, we are registered with CDSCO, the Indian regulatory body, ISO 13485 certification, and Make in India certification, and we are just about to get onto the government e-marketplace. In January, we are hoping to apply for the European CE as well as initiate the US FDA process. Looking at the cost as to how we are going to address the market and this forgotten world, as we say. Our system will cost literally less than half of the refurbished X system and almost 1/3 or less than the top model. And our performance is very similar to the top model with more features and more specialties. Per procedure cost, again, will be very affordable, because the vision really was to get it to as many patients as possible through its application from the hospitals. And the market opportunity remains huge, actually. The pundits have calculated this thing. It is expected to grow. Some people are even talking about $26 billion by 2030. And also within India, the growth is quite high. I think because the penetration is so low with the number of hospitals and what we have today. In terms of the market opportunity and the business side of things, it remains a very healthy business model while really making a system affordable to as many patients as possible. And the whole idea was really in terms of creating an impact. We not only have this multi-arm system, but we are going to use single arm for true telemedicine, actually. A lot of time telemedicine, unfortunately, remains as a video conferencing. So using the single arm and remotely controlling, one can really carry out the diagnostic and therapeutic applications, future stem cell, virtual procedures. And the whole idea is to decentralize excellence, whereby a lot of the diagnosis and the treatments are not given in a timely fashion, mainly because of not having the availability or people having to travel. We have partnered with Airtel and developing telesurgery. And hopefully we can literally bring this thing over a period of time with the help of the government to various remote areas as well. And so today, India, I think, will have an opportunity because of our population and a tremendously enthusiastic group of surgeons who want to get onto the latest and the best. And of course, it is wonderful for the patients because they can have this cost-effective surgery in the least possible way. And the goal is to really organize in a very programmatic way. And hopefully we can inspire others, because India today still imports 70 to 80% of the sophisticated medical devices. So we have shown that one can actually do, and truly it is a system that has been developed by the team in India. And who is the beneficiary? This is an 80-year-old patient. I operated back in 2012, did 2 bypasses with the robotic system. He went home in 2 days. And a week later, this 80-year-old farmer is back on his farm. And this is really what continues to push us to keep advancing this field. A very young group of engineers, highly dedicated and motivated. So with that, thank you, and Jai Hind.
Wonderful work, Dr. Sudhir. I must congratulate you.
Thank you.
Wonderful work.
Thank you. We open for questions.
Yeah, I agree. Just first couple of questions, just to understand, for a system like yours, I've not seen anything built like this in India. What proportion of parts are procured from outside India versus developed in India? A lot of the servo motors, as I understand, based on my engineering days, are complicated and they're usually not made in India. So, can you explain that?
Unfortunately, the electronics is still quite a bit of electronics is still come from outside because we don't produce them in India, or we don't produce the ones that are required for these medical grade efficiencies and accuracies. So we still end up importing motors from Germany or Switzerland, some of the drives from Israel or Switzerland, some of the harmonic drives, they come from Japan. So we still have, I would say, electronic components, almost 80%, they come from outside. And so all the hardware and the plasticware is all manufactured in India. All the design work is done by our team, and then we manufacture them wherever within India, and then assemble and do all the testing and get it ready for the allocations.
Got it. And what about the precision machining machine parts like the blades and those sort of things? Are they also imported from outside India?
No, I think there are now quite a few vendors that really are doing a lot of things for space, for aerospace agencies, and a lot of small parts are being done, instrument. So all that actually we have capability within India, and we are doing it here.
Got it. One thing you mentioned, you compared to Da Vinci in multiple places in your presentation. I know, and I've seen that. I've spent 10 years in the US as well. I've seen the key differentiation for a Da Vinci system versus anyone else who's come after them has been the way they've marketed and got into the minds of the doctors, and they've trained the doctors on them, and doctors are used to how they touch and feel, even though they have to crouch on it or whatever, they're just comfortable with it because that's what they're trained on. So
Yeah.
how will you sort of combat that as you begin to expand in India?
I think, as far as India scene is concerned, there is a huge enthusiasm among the surgical communities and the hospitals. We just launched our first commercial in August of this year, and we have placed 3 systems within the last few months, and we have purchase orders, so we are installing. I think what we find that, even I'll give you an example. Rajiv Gandhi has 2 Da Vinci systems, and they purchased ours mainly because of the cost effectiveness. And this way they can offer more and more people, where they don't have to keep giving more and more money to the Da Vinci company, and ultimately, hopefully transition out. So yes, the Da Vinci has enjoyed the monopoly, and that's the only reason, that there was no other choice, unfortunately. And when I moved to India from US back in 2011, there were only 7 or 8 systems, and it was really tough. And even now, unfortunately, if you just think about the hospitals we have, the doctors we have, the patient population, very small fraction is getting the benefit. And since cost has been the major factor, and of course, the first thing, the technology must be good. And what we have done, we have proven that, we have validated through various things and key opinion leaders in the country. And so it performs at 1/3 the cost, and with more specialties, because cardiac is one thing that other specialties have other options of endoscopic surgeries, while cardiac, you still end up splitting the sternum with, all the things that we know about it. So I think there is a tremendous enthusiasm, and I don't think this will deter. I think at some point, monopolies must be stopped. It's no good for anyone in terms of the consumer world or the patient population or the growth of the countries. And I think the recent trends have shown us about this pandemic or geopolitical issues. We must become independent. And so hopefully we can push this Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat through what we are doing. And I think there will be adoption. Yes, it will take us time. Da Vinci is a giant, but we're not afraid.
Okay. So,
How the
thank you.
adoption, Dr. Sudhir? Sorry, Dr. Anil, please.
Yeah. So it's wonderful, as you were talking, I was just imagining, talking about this to my students, and it's really hats off to you. And it's a very good, and you are right, absolutely right. And I had a very recent experience of having someone in my home undergoing robotic surgery, and I paid a lot of pockets of money. Let me tell you, thanks of I didn't know that you. But my thing is, what actually, Mr. Nitin, the earlier junior asked you, whatever said and done, I'm coming back to the same thing. The Da Vinci, it's been well established, right? And then in an hospital, even in the cost of the money being less, at times, people, doctors, they are very hesitant when it coming, because it's the life of a patient, right? So that is one way you need to, or how are you planning to address that, to make them understand, yes, this is more safe, because this is not like some ordinary drugs where you can do a lot of clinical trials, number one. And second, you had spoken about metaverse. So is this aspect of that, it's already there? I mean, have you done any use case with respect to your system, or you're planning for using metaverse for training?
So I'll address your first question. Of course, as far as the acceptance is concerned of our system, people are coming, I mean, literally on a weekly basis, and we are just unfortunately hampered because of the supply chain issue that exists globally today in terms of the delivery times. So we do have to face that. But there is absolutely enthusiasm. And I think how you compete is by having a technology that works and has been validated that it is safe, things are feasible, and intended tasks are carried out. By now, Dr. Raval has done about 50 very complex operations, every cancer radical operations of the highest complexity with no device-related adverse effect. So when people like that, or there are giants like Dr. Somashekar and so on, they've actually tested our system. And so once you have validation of the technology, I think, yes, it will take us time, but I'm not at all. I think we have a tremendous enthusiasm, considering they have, if Da Vinci was so good and all of that thing, they would not have 100 system only in 20 years. So somewhere, I think there is a disconnect. And yes, I agree with you that, as a hospital that can afford, or patient can then afford. Yes, it's just like buying a Mercedes versus another car. So there will always be that fact. And people, sometimes buy, Rolex watch, other will buy a small, gives the same time. So that we cannot change as the human thing is concerned. But I think on the scientific side and the medical side, we have absolutely no doubt that we will succeed over a period of time.
So
What
how
about
many
the
patients?
metaverse? It's been already implemented for
Yeah, so
training
we
or
have already
anything?
applied in 3 centers now, one Rajiv Gandhi, another in Raipur, another in Hyderabad, and we are delivering 2 more systems in Coimbatore and another in Bombay. And we got a bunch of other purchase orders in the pipeline. Some of the major hospitals, and may not be appropriate for me to give out some of these names. I don't want to come across in the marketing side. So, yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So Dr. Sudhir, how many patient the operations has been performed? Any data sheet you have?
Yeah, so currently, again, as I mentioned, we just launched it, and roughly around 70 patients have been done.
Okay.
And mostly have been with Dr. Raval, because he did also our trial. And he's the busiest robotic surgeon in the country, having done 4,000. And we really wanted to put it in the hands of people who actually have the experience.
Right.
And to start with, somebody who has never done robotic, it may not. And of course, now we are placing and we are training them. But initially, we wanted to be in the very safe hands.
Well, I think wonderful. This validation study with the patient, if you really publish, I think that can really take over any giant or any marketing collateral from any of the competitor.
Sure.
Right. Good one. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I would love to
What's the
introduce
path
you-
to, sorry, what's the path for US FDA approval for this one? What kind of clinical data would be required, and what amount of investment required for it?
So let's take the European CE. They require ISO 13485, and then of course, they will send their team, and we are already actually certified that way. For non-cardiac indication, no clinical trials are required. For cardiac indication, the trials are required, and we will actually do that as even part of the FDA. The US FDA, they have kind of stopped doing this predicate 510K that they used to in the past, and partly thanks to intuitive surgical lobbying. They say it is not same, and which is okay, but we are absolutely prepared to do the trials. And I think you may know that these trials actually can be done in India very fast because we have, huge volumes in certain centers. So it can be done pretty fast. On average, based on my understanding, it's around roughly 60 cases based on the region in terms of the body part of it. So this is where we are heading. And one thing interesting, Dr. Fred Moll, who was founder of Intuitive Surgical, he left and he has joined forces with us. He came here, he saw the technology, sat on it, saw operations. And I think I would say, it's a tremendous endorsement from the father of surgical robotics and probably the most experienced person in the world. So we are pretty confident, I think, and we will get through whatever is the process. The way, as far as FDA is concerned, you have a preliminary meeting with them. They will tell you exactly what they want. And under protocols, we can do the trials in India. Yes.
Understood.
I'm happy to
Wonderful,
introduce
Dr.
you to
Sudhir.
some
And what kind of
hospitals.
investment you have done in this building up this robotic stuff, if it is not confidential?
Personally, I have put in over $7.5 million of my life saving. In the process, I went bankrupt, sold my car, sold my furniture, trying to raise money. And we did succeed. We ultimately raised $33 million or so. And right now, in fact, we have merged with a public company and we hope to raise fairly large amounts in the range of $100 to $200 million and get onto NASDAQ, hopefully in the next 4 to 6 months or so. So we do recognize, unfortunately, the Indian scene is not very conducive for investment in devices.
But best of luck, sir. We hope this succeeds, in fact.
Thank you.